Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, buddy, this is RJ here, and I'm here with Bill and the Chicken
Hey,
Man, Dan.
here's hoping I don't lay an
I
egg.
was,
Ugh,
my other one, my other one was, is it Dan or is it Vulture? But it's
still could
Dan,
lay an
so,
egg.
yeah.
We'll get to that when we come to that issue.
Yeah. So today, a question Dan actually asked us as we were starting this. We are starting with Tales to Astonish, issue number 49, and then we will move on to The Avengers, issue number 2, and then Amazing Spider-Man, number 7, and then we have Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, issue number 4, and Strange Tales, issue number 114, I believe. Yeah, no, 115. Issue 115, which will have an A story and a B story. The B story is the return of Doctor Strange. Well, I guess no, second part since he's returned. Excuse me. So yes, pretty good episode ahead. After we go through the comics too, we will also be doing our monthly segments at the end of the month where we go through our poll list, see if there's any updates to our poll list or any updates, good or bad, if we're adding titles or taking away titles. And then we will also talk about, before our poll list, we'll actually talk about the best comic of the month and the worst comic of the month. So, anyways, let us move forward with the big issue to start us off.
And who gets stuck with this little turkey? Yay!
That would be me.
I mean, gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Brian, that's terrible.
Tales
I'm
to
not. I'm
Astonish.
too tired to deal with this shit tonight.
Tales to Astonish, issue number 49. Yes, this is the issue.
Classic you've all been waiting for.
Ant-Man becomes. Yeah, the issue Ant-Man becomes Giant Man. One of the worst transitions of a character possibly to ever exist. So we open. I mean, pretty good cover at least. But we open. I guess I should go through the credits real fast. Let's see.
Yes, we must assign blame where it's due.
Issue number 49, The Birth of Giant Man, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Well, at least we got, I don't know if Jack Kirby's a good fan here. We got Don Heck inking. We got Ayers helping Kirby on the cover. Sam Rosen's on letters. August 1963 release, and a whopping 18-page story.
Oh, holy shit, there's a full write-up here.
Fuck.
I mean, it is a pretty important issue, even if it's
You sure
not.
you don't want to
is.
give this one to me, Ryan?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
sure, because I don't want to do the next one.
goody.
So, for full transparency. So we open up with an explosion through a house as we see, whoa, it's a gigantic figure. It's Giant Man. He's exploded through his house after doing his experiments to become Giant Man.
Say it right.
I'm not going to emphasize that every time.
Come on, you know you want to. Giant Man.
I'll give you more Astonish issues going forward. How about that?
Oh, no, I'm not
so
doing
on
any
the
more Astonish crap.
No, please. No. So Jan appears quickly on the second page, and Hank talks about how his experiment backfired. He took a dose a bit too big and of his new enlargement fluid. He takes a dose, goes back down, and then they go and he works out a new formula to make a better enlargement serum, which we see works quite well. He now has the power in his pill of enlargement to grow double the size of the average man. Yep, the good old
That
enlargement
reaction
pill.
Couldn't
was
give me this
perfect.
one. Really? Is it a little
I
blue
mean,
pill
the themes might be.
shaped kind of?
It's actually yellow.
So it's Cialis.
To be transparent. Well,
It's
Yeah.
yellow and about the size of Jan's head because they're not good at drawing pills small.
So he takes his little pill and grows big.
yeah, he grows to double the size of the average man, and when he is Giant Man, he stands at 12 feet tall.
The worst thing about all this is I'm looking at a panel with a guy selling wieners.
Wow. Subtle.
We then Fuck. We then transition
Janet
to
blushing.
a civilian. Well, there's plenty of that will happen. A guy is warning cops about a giant that wrecked Henry Pym's house. But then we see this figure. We see. Oh, there's a Then the cop returns back saying there's a gremlin stealing at City Hall. And they are on a hunt looking for this gremlin, as they say.
He was being sarcastic about the gremlin.
Oh, the nut, next nut. Okay, yeah, he's being sarcastic, but they go out. They got a report about someone running around erasing people, and so they're looking for this guy in the park. And we see this figure, skulking behind the trees, and this man is selling hot dogs, and he gets erased by who we will come to know as the Living Eraser.
Told you I wasn't making up the wiener thing.
No, I had to come back to that. We see the Living Eraser. the Living Eraser does indeed erase this man in front of our eyes, and then he also goes and erases a scientist. Probably something about, and who cares what the goal is. But he erases the scientist, and then we go back to Hank, who is explaining all the different types of pills that he has to grow and shrink. So
he needs a fucking slideshow presentation to explain to Jan the concept of like 6 different pills that are color coded.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Like 1 inch, 6 inches, 1 foot.
It's a more subtle example of Hank's misogyny, but it's definitely part of it.
Wow.
Yes. Mansplaining all the way.
You couldn't give me this one, you bastards. I totally would have ripped this to pieces.
Maybe I should have. Fuck. Shit. So, Wasp takes her shrinking serum as, whoa, Henry Pym is attacked by the Living Eraser. And he actually does get erased here. And we learn from Henry being erased that what erasing actually does is it makes the person being erased transport to another world.
Z.
It is dimensions.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes. And yes, we say said because we're Canadian. So we learned that the Living Eraser is the only one of his kind who can actually erase people like that. So he's the only one that can travel between the dimensions. He talks about.
To be clear, at this point we've had Planet X, a whole lot of Y, and now we're on Dimension Z.
Yes. So they talk about how the 2 dimensions occupy the same space, same place and time, but are in different universes. Blah blah blah. They talk about how they have been monitoring the Earth for centuries, and how they were too primitive to be of any interest to them before they discovered atomic power, and now they want that power. So, take over.
You can jump through dimensions, but you want atomic power. Wow.
Yes. So, I don't know. So, the Living Eraser, one of the men from this dimension, pull out this this interesting tool. I don't really know what it is, but it sure gets kinky and it ties up Henry Pym real fast. And this is when we learned that Jan actually got erased with Hank because Wasp, she had shrunk down to her Wasp persona, and because she was with Henry, she went with him because plot convenience.
She hid in his pocket. They actually did explain how she got caught.
Yeah, she hid in his pocket, so she got caught. Yeah. If we want to get real into it. And then, so Jan helps Hank get out of it, and then we see Hank shrink down. Oh, no, she gives him a shrink capsule, that's why. He shrinks down to get out of his trap, and they're all looking for him, blah, blah, blah. He changes into his new Giant Man costume, but he's actually Ant-Man right now, and he fights a frog-looking creature real fast, and then they figure out a plan. Some kind of plan. He sends Wasp to go rip some cord of a scan in the face out, so they won't be detected, and then they keep making their way until Hank finally turns back to the Giant Man, and starts taking out some of the Dimension Said people. He does a lot of work as Giant Man. We see him scaling a building. He gets his King Kong reference in. That will happen a lot. And then he starts battling with some flying aircrafts. He grabs one of the people, and then he gets information where one of the scientists can help them out. Then we see a glass cage fall and trap Giant Man, and we think all hope is lost. We don't really, because we know this is a comic and we know where this is going. But the Living Eraser comes back, and he is like, "Oh," he's like, "I know not." He's saying he doesn't know how they entered Dimension Said, but you should never leave it. And he shows his device that lets him erase people, and then Wasp configures his trap, and Giant Man gets out and grabs the Living Eraser. He grabs his little contraption on his hand that lets him erase people, and then they erase all the men that the Living Eraser had previously erased in this issue or off panel. And then they erase themselves. Well, Hank kind of erases Jan as he erases himself, so they both get erased. And the issue ends with them home, and Wasp is like, Dreamboat, there's always so much to read in the papers when you're around. And Hank's like, now that Giant Man is coming to be in, they'd better start printing more editions.
Yeah.
So, Giant Man sells papers.
You somehow managed to take a really...
The worst thing about this comic was that it... Oh, go ahead,
somehow Ryan managed to take a really bad story and make it worse. Just wow.
Yeah. The worst thing about this comic was that it was 18 pages long.
I can't believe they gave this fucker 18 pages.
It's a 12-page story, same as the other ones. There's just a ton of padding in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, because they want them... It's obviously trying to make it seem like a big deal, which it is technically a big deal, except it's like it's actually, like, it's not really that good of a transition for the character. It just randomly happens. They just had the idea, or somebody wrote into them, like, the idea, and they're like, we better get on this.
A giant story
so
for
he just
Giant
wanted to spice
Man.
up the title. The worst part about this is I had to relive it just now,
Yeah.
so... Anyways, I gave that one, I think, just 2.
I gave it 2 as well.
The average rating leans a little higher towards... It's 2.84, so it's technically more of a 3, but it's not that great.
I don't know how the fuck it's rated that high.
It's not that good. It's very disappointing for the transition from Ant-Man to Giant Man.
A lot of people were giving it a bonus star because of the birth of Giant Man.
I suspect that probably happened a lot, yeah. The Living Eraser also kind of sucks, although you can kind of consider him a kind of fun, goofy villain if you can ignore
he wouldn't have bothered me if they did stuff on Hank developing Giant Man to fill most of the page, like some of the bad villains we've had in Iron Man during Status Quo twists or so, where they need a villain, so they'll have a shit villain that they can use for 3 pages and devote the rest of the story to advancing the character. But unfortunately, in this case, they focused the entire story on the Living Eraser.
Yeah, who doesn't appear again until Marvel 2-in-1 number 15. So yes, he does appear again.
Yeah, no, and it's not better.
Yeah, I didn't assume it was.
I think it's actually worse, if I remember.
Classic
oh,
crap
nice.
You got here.
I'm pretty sure the Living Eraser has not gone down in
It's
history.
at some point in time when we're off the air, you guys got to explain to me how Marvel survived this period in time.
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, the average rating of that Marvel 2-in-1 is 2.18.
Oh god, it is worse. Oh shit.
It's the Thing and Morbius fighting him.
Oh god. Who? Why would you put those two? Okay, we'll just move forward. We don't need to talk about how the fuck Finn and Morbius got paired.
It's a team up book. It doesn't have to make sense.
Oh, that's disgusting. I guess we should. And does anybody have any other comments
to your
about
question? Marvel survived because DC was also putting out shit like this.
Okay,
at
fair
this
enough.
Time.
That's fair, because DC was putting out some serious crap.
Yeah.
That whole Super Family run was just a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. I
still have to read that.
No, Supergirl, Crypto.
Oh, I know exactly.
The DC Super Family routine was so bad. Right. And I think the only thing that really saved it was sending Superboy off to the Legion of Superheroes. Probably. Anyway, back to Marvel.
On to Avengers issue number 2, The Space Phantom. Yay. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Paul Ryman's on inks. I actually rated this issue lower than I thought I did, so this should be fun to talk about. We got cover art by Kirby and Dick Ayers. We got Stan Goldberg on colors and letters by Artie Simic. September 1963 release date. 22-page story.
Sorry.
And this one's for you, Dan, my buddy.
Oh, good. Because you know what? If you look at the cover, which looks like an Archie cover, it does. You'll see that it has the new Giant Man.
It does, because the continuity is important in this order. For how we read
golden
stuff.
metal dildo and Thor and Wasp.
Full transparency, we gave this story to Dan because honestly, Bill and I didn't really have anything to necessarily make this entertaining, so we figured the most entertaining way to go about this is to give Dan this so we can get Dan's first impressions while he reads the synopsis, so at least that might give us some entertainment.
I also didn't feel like going through the hassle of explaining who was the Space Phantom at any given time.
I might have to try to do that.
So
I was hoping whoever wrote your synopsis took care of that for us.
Yeah, well, let's find out.
Hopefully.
Okay, it's a fairly substantial synopsis for this one, and it's the Avengers battle, ... the Space Phantom.
Ooh. A lot does actually happen here, but a lot of it's not
or in any way interesting. Okay, Iron Man, Thor, and the Hulk are awaiting Ant-Man and the Wasp in Tony Stark's library so they can begin their meeting. There's already tension among the ranks of this new super team as Thor and Hulk bicker. Well, that's not good now, is it? Before anything can come of it, Ant-Man and the Wasp make a sudden entrance, seemingly appearing out of nowhere. Ant-Man, now using the name Giant Man, explains by showing the team his new size-changing capsules. Elsewhere, the eerie Space Phantom arrives on Earth under the guise of a fragment of meteorite. He plans to destroy the Avengers so that his race can invade the planet. He takes the appearance of a passerby, sending him to limbo. A little funky there. Later, the Space Phantom, under the guise of the passerby, approaches the Avengers mansion. He's spotted by the team, and the Hulk goes to investigate. The man takes the Hulk off guard. Sorry, what? Sorry, what?
So Hulk goes to investigate the Space Phantom,
and somehow the Space Phantom catches him off guard.
Catches Hulk off guard.
Well, all he really has to do is look at someone, and he takes their form and zaps them to limbo.
Yeah,
so it's not like he actually beat up Hulk or anything.
Yeah, no. So Space Phantom's gimmick is he just has this gun-like weapon that he shoots people with, and it sends them to limbo, which is the first version of limbo we're introduced to. So
he doesn't even have a gun-like weapon. He just
he just zaps them.
Okay, so he doesn't use his little...
Okay. So
they might have added the gun weapon later, but in this comic,
so he doesn't use one of those tied
I made up gun.
He actually just uses a gun this time.
No, it's just he just puts his hands out and saps people. I just made the gun thing up because I saw it right.
So what we have is an alien. eliminating people and
Yes, who
sending them
takes
off to
people's
another
images and
dimension.
sends them
No
to
problem.
limbo.
That's a unique
Yes, he sends them to another
idea.
dimension called limbo, and he
What a
takes their
great
form.
idea. They should do that for...
And the gimmick is he can only keep one person in limbo at a time.
Oh, that makes it totally different.
That plays
so as
a
soon
bit
as
of
he
a role in the
changes
story.
form, that person snaps back, and the next person is in
It's
limbo.
totally different. Okay. Anyway, he assumes Hulk's form, sending him to limbo in place of the man. The Phantom, this time in the guise of the Hulk, returns to the team and taunts Iron Man and Thor, causing a miniature brawl. That's funny. And heightening the tensions in the team before leaving. Outside, he spots the man he replaced earlier, trying to warn everybody, and decides to cause more havoc as the Hulk. The Hulk is approached by his friend Rick Jones, who convinces him to escape before the police arrive. Rick realizes something is wrong with the way Hulk is acting, and the Phantom reveals himself before leaving. Kinky. Yeah, you ever seen this before, little boy? He arrives at one of Tony Stark's operations plants. Well, he said he revealed himself. Wow, I wonder how Rick dealt with that.
And now Hulk's on the list.
Name go on list. And still posing as the Hulk, destroys a new experimental anti-missile defense weapon. Iron Man is told the news and faces off against the Hulk. Iron Man proves to be too much for him, however, and the Phantom flees by taking the form of a passing wasp, leaving a confused and dazed Hulk behind. Iron Man and the Hulk continue to battle, because it makes total sense. Meanwhile, Rick Jones communicates with Giant Man and explains the situation to the Wasp and him. They catch up with Iron Man and Hulk and break up the fight. The Phantom, still in the form of a wasp, attacks the Wasp and flees to a nearby factory. After aiding the Wasp, Giant Man is taken by surprise by the Space Phantom and replaced. This time the Wasp and the Hulk saw it happen and know that this Giant Man is fake. They battle and Iron Man eventually catches up only to be replaced by a more interesting superhero. Hulk catches the Space Phantom in the act, yet again, what's he exposing himself to this time? And the newly returned Giant Man teams up with the Hulk to fight the fake Iron Man. Across town, it's revealed that the Wasp left to search for Thor. She finds him with the help of Dr. Donald Blake. What a coincidence. And the duo race back to the factory to assist the rest of the team. The Wasp shrinks down and damages the mechanism of the Iron Man suit, and Thor creates a thunderstorm, causing the iron to rust. In a final desperate attempt to succeed... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is just... Oh, boy.
I almost spit my apple.
This is a slog. The Space Phantom...
Imagine reading this.
I was gonna say,
pretty cut down version.
Imagine reading this fucking shit.
Anyway, in a final desperate attempt to succeed, the Space Phantom decides to take Thor's form. Unfortunately for the Phantom, his power only works on mortal beings, and it backfires, sending him to limbo instead. What a cop-out. After the battle, Hulk expresses his sadness at his recent treatment in the team and decides to quit. Hulk sad. Hulk go reveal himself to people. Yeah, okay.
Hulk not allowed near schools.
Hulk banned. You want to see his little green man? Sorry, that was the aliens line. Anyway, so now Hulk has left the Avengers. Whatever are they going to do? Perhaps that they could find a superhero with a bow and arrow.
That's literally the important part about this issue, and it happens at the very end. Hulk leaves the Avengers this issue, so he lasted 2 issues. The point, it actually was better written than your synopsis made it sound, in terms of the fact that it actually did give us context to Space Phantom, like, is essentially just trying to fuck with and disassemble the Avengers here. So he turns them against the Hulk with his becoming the Hulk and everything, blah, blah, blah. But it's just a really dumb fucking concept that isn't that fun to read, even though it's not terribly written. It's just not a fun concept to read.
I mean, I'd argue it is fairly terribly written.
It's terribly written in part, but they also give some explanation to some things that...
I agree under the explanations, but on the opposite side, this is when Wasp's treatment starts getting really bad.
True.
In the course of this issue, she found the random guy Space Phantom turned into, Tony, Donald Blake, and Thor all hot and commented on it each time. They've completely devolved her to just being crazy about any guy.
So she's a bubble-headed fan.
She especially swoons. She has especially been swooning over Thor, but she has literally been just
doesn't everyone?
Been hot for everybody.
Oh, I think she found Rick Jones cute too.
Okay, that's just taking it too far.
It was like literally every human guy she interacted with, or human appearing.
Well, I guess we should all reveal ourselves to her. Anyway.
But on the positive sides, the art was better than usual in this issue. It might be some of my favorite Kirby art.
Interesting.
Reinman should ink him more often, I think.
That's probably what the difference is here. Reinman just does really good things, too. So. In other news, not necessarily good, Space Phantom does return again. In issue number 10.
Soon on.
Yeah, issue number 10.
Wow.
Return. So, I mean, we have a bit to go, but like,
I think he's appearing in a flashback there, though.
Great. Less time, the better.
Yeah, this was just tedious, really.
Not that good. Yeah, I gave this one 2 stars. It's actually, believe it or not, got a 3-star average. I didn't enjoy it.
I think there's a lot of sentimentality.
I gave it 2.
3 stars. It got pulled up by the quality of the art on it.
Okay, that's fair enough. You don't actually rank a lot on art, so that's fair. This was good art for Kirby. Reinman's inks definitely helped here. That cover is awful, though.
It was boring, but it wasn't an awful story, and the art made it passably enjoyable my first time through.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Do keep in mind, when we give you our ratings, it is based off our first time reading these too, so.
Yeah.
Because we don't change our ratings, which is actually going to play a bit of a role later, because I probably would have given it a story coming up with a different rating had I changed it. Yeah, I'll touch on that when we get to it. Any other comments before we move on from Avengers?
But not as much as Spider-Man.
Fair enough. Speaking of,
you mentioned that.
Amazing Spider-Man issue number 7 is up next. It's almost like you may have known that. We have the return of the Vultures, the story title. We have Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in the house on this, of course, and they're actually the only 2 people with credits on this issue. September 1963 release date, 21-page story, and the honors yet again go to Bill.
So we're not going to make Dan narrate his own story.
That's cool. That's cruel.
Correct.
Oh, don't worry. I've got plenty more Vulture Dan.
Well, you know what? I have to say that if I ever do decide to become a supervillain, I'm going to have a green costume. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a given.
I would hope so, or what else? Why bother?
Yeah. Anyway, this story opens with a recap of Spider-Man number 2 and Spider-Man's battle with the Vulture. And then we cut over to the Vulture in prison. And he's been on good behavior for 5 months now, since we're on issue 7 now. And so they've given him the run of the machine shop, where he immediately started stealing the machinery necessary to build a new flying device. And so he starts floating around in this cell to make sure it works. And absolutely no one notices it. So they let him go out in the exercise yard the next day. And he immediately flies over the wall of the prison and off into the sunset, never to be seen again for at least a page. And we cut over to Midtown High, where Peter is getting bullied during a volleyball game. And then he's just about to try to show Flash Thompson up when some kid walks by listening to the news on a radio and hearing how the Vulture escaped from prison. And so Peter fakes a headache and goes home to dress up as Spider-Man and go and easily catch Vulture because he still has his magnetic device that shut down the Vulture's flying machine. Unfortunately, Vulture has figured out how Peter did it, and so he's modified his wings so it won't work anymore. And he's flying around New York, committing some random crimes, and basically just trying to get seen because he wants to defeat Spider-Man. And Spider-Man finds him. Spider-Man snaps a picture of him as he activates the magnetic device, and Vulture fakes falling from the sky. And Spider-Man goes to follow him down, but he ducks in under a ledge on the building so that Spider-Man can't see him. And when Spider-Man goes to look for his corpse in the street, he pops up and starts beating up Spider-Man. See, Dan, it really is you. He's living your dream.
That is true. Yep.
And he pummels Spider-Man so bad that Spider-Man falls from the sky and lands awkwardly on a roof.
That's right.
Injuring his arm.
Smack that whiny bitch.
And so Vulture flies away, and Spider-Man limps off home, feeling sorry for himself. And Aunt May hears him and comes in, but he knows she's about as old as Dan is, so if she saw him as Spider-Man, she would have a fatal heart attack and die of the shock. So he hides on the ceiling until she leaves. And then he changes back into his Peter clothes and convinces Aunt May that he got hurt playing volleyball. And so she takes him to the doctor, where it's revealed that he only sprained his arm and didn't break it as he had thought.
Yeah, he thought he'd broken it when he first fell.
Yeah. And so we cut over to a farm where Vulture is concocting his next plan, which is to steal old J. Jonah Jameson's payrolls from his office in the Daily Bugle.
Yes.
So he heads off to do that. We cut over to Peter at the Daily Bugle, where he's flirting with Betty Brant until Jonah calls him in, and he sells Jonah the pictures of the Vulture. And just then, Vulture busts in and starts trying to rob Jonah, but Jonah's just basically refusing to be robbed because he's too cheap. And so he just starts yelling at the Vulture.
He's not too cheap.
And Jonah and the Vulture stand there yelling at each
Jameson's
other.
a true hero here. Look how brave he is in the face of the Vulture.
Yeah.
God, he's so misunderstood.
He stands there trying to pay Vulture for his work in exposure, while Peter just quietly slips out the door, finds an empty room, and changes into his Spider-Man costume, and comes back in and starts fighting with the Vulture, and Jonah's caught in the middle, getting buffeted around by the fight.
Yeah, it looks real kinky for a second, that bottom panel.
Yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man's got his hand in Jonah's no-no zone.
I'll send this to the group chat just for Dan.
And then we get a bit of a Betty perspective as the Vulture flies by her, and then Spider-Man comes running by, and then Jonah comes running by after them, yelling at them for trashing his office. And they start fighting in the bullpen of the Bugle. And they fight their way all the way down to the printing presses. And keep fighting and smashing Jonah's stuff. This is all fight. Somehow they end up... Okay, Vulture finds a window and escapes. And they start fighting in the air up above the city. And Vulture's figured out that Spider-Man's got a busted up arm. And so he figures he's got an advantage. But Spider-Man webs up his wings And so Vulture goes into a free fall. And Spider-Man makes a giant parachute and hangs onto him. And they parachute down to the ground. He deposits Vulture in front of some police officers. Goes back to mock Jonah some more. Webs up his mouth when Jonah tries to insult him. And then he sneaks back into the building. Changes back into his Peter costume. And hangs out with Betty Brant behind her desk flirting, while Jonah runs by, not able to yell at anyone because his mouth's still webbed up. And then Peter and Betty agree on a date, and that's the end.
A typical end for a typical superhero.
Well, I would,
as they say, because I
wouldn't call Jonah a superhero. I think he's just an everyday hero. He tells it like...
Come on, he tried to paint a Vulture an exposure.
He tells it like it is.
We've had a lot of people...
Vulture isn't even Hulk.
We've had a lot of people, I was going to say, we've had a lot of people
I was going to say, a lot of people exposing themselves. And Spidey's trying to feel up J. Jonah. I mean, come on.
Can you blame him?
I mean, really. But, I mean, I think that, this issue reveals who the real
Simmons
hero
is a hell of a guy.
J. Jonah, the one calling out for sanity.
The Vulture.
Trying to get these two guys to stop fighting. I mean, it's just... how Jonah didn't get his own title, I don't know. I'd fucking read it.
I love Jonah. It's funny when bad stuff happens to him, but I absolutely love Jonah. He's one of my favorite characters in this.
Jonah is fantastic. Before we go to ratings, I'll just run through a few of my notes I had, since this is probably the best my notes have been this week so far. One of my notes says how I was very happy to see the Vulture back, which was it might be a commentary on the state of these comics.
I always liked Vulture.
Vulture's actually pretty good. He kind of gets watered down over time, so he kind of gets a bad rep after a while. Even just by giving Spidey an injury, it's a basic thing that continues to establish this as the best title going. And then in the letter pages for this issue, they had... I'm just going to keep moving. In the letter pages, this is the issue where they had asked readers if they could discontinue their letter pages already at issue 7. And they made a joke about shooting themselves at one point. So that was nice. Anyways, for our ratings, I gave this one a 4.
So did I.
Yeah, I figured we were probably on pace for this one. Vulture's surprisingly good villain. Like, he's actually one of the best villains so far.
He actually, just in general, I mean, at this point, they cop out of it with bullshit 60s superheroes inventing new powers. But he has one of the few true threats to Spider-Man that he can drag him up above the buildings where his webbing's useless.
And unfortunately, Vulture won't appear again until they form the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of the villains have terribly good appearances in the Sinister Six issue.
Yeah.
It's basically an excuse for exciting splash pages of Spider-Man beating them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any other comments on Spider-Man this week?
I think it actually managed to do an almost exclusively superhero episode and keep the quality up, because usually the thing that's given Spider-Man one of its major edges is the amount of time they spend with him. Oh my
God, you guys are such fanboys.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Nothing happens in this comic. It's like pointless. Nothing really happens.
Yeah, I agree.
And here the two of you are
it's basically a battle issue.
It's just really good. Steve Ditko's great.
Story non-existent.
He's friggin'...
Yeah, it's a battle issue.
Yeah, well, that's what Spider-Man's kind of been, but it's also it's been revolutionized in the media form in that way because it's been some of the best battles that have taken place probably in comics at all at this point. But for Marvel, it's way ahead of anything else in terms of that so far.
Oh yeah, it's the only vaguely modern reading comic.
For the first time in my life, I wish I was Spider-Man so that I could web up both your mouths. Wow. It's crap.
Next, you're just going to tie us up, too. Don't worry, it's not the last we see of Spider-Man today.
Goody. But sure, just rub some lemon juice in that wound, why don't you? Thank you.
Hey, I can't wait for Strange Tales.
Hey.
Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos, issue number 4 is next. This is Lord Haha's last laugh, and that's the title of the story. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, George Russo's on inks, Jack Kirby, Sol Brodsky on the cover, and Sam Rosen on letters. It's a September 1963 release, a 22-page story, and off I go for this one. As I pull this up, we are promised on the cover that a Commando would die in this issue. Will they deliver on that? We will soon find out.
It's a great cover too.
It is a really good cover. Honestly, Fury tends to have decent covers.
Oh no, yes, so far. That's my Birsky.
Just gotta scroll back to the start of this issue. There we go. Lord Haha's last laugh. We see the Commandos all together for one last time. So the story takes place, of course, World War II period. It takes place in the heart of bomb-torn London, and this is a surprise daylight air raid is taking place by Hitler's dreaded Luftwaffe. Cool. So we open up, the bombs taking place in London here, and we are introduced, we see a female nurse coming to help a guy that Sergeant Fury helps save, and we are introduced to whatever her name is here.
They don't give her name at this time.
Yeah, it must be given later when they meet again.
Her identity is a plot point later on.
Yeah. So Fury's just being Fury. They're being flown through fucking chaos. Well, they're being driven through chaos, I guess I should say. Or they're in that plane, I think. I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes with the art in this book.
That's just random British guys shooting down the Germans.
Just random battle. Cool. So they're safe in their hangar then.
They're just trying to depict the Battle of Britain.
So we go back to base and we see some more Commando action with the personalities coming out here. After Fury had kind of marched off from talking to the woman that we will officially meet in a bit. So they all joked Fury how they thought they were like, "Oh, you're dead. You're too ordinary to die." Blah blah blah. So they just keep joking before he toughens up and whoops some shape again. So then we get to more of the plot of this issue, where we learn that there is a man called Lord Haha, which the deal with him that we'll learn is the deal with him.
He's a radio personality. If you were living in the 60s, you would know exactly who this is. Like, because I know exactly who he is.
Yeah, they called him Lord Haha in real life, like HAW instead of just HA.
Yeah.
But it's totally a real propagandist.
Yeah, he was a radio personality in Germany who would broadcast in English, taunting British soldiers, spouting all kinds of propaganda. He was tried and executed after the war, I believe. Was he not? Yeah,
yes, I think
that
so.
Out because
that's actually
if you didn't know, Haha was real.
I didn't know.
That's why he's got such a lame name. Because it's a play off a real person, so they kind of had to go with
William
the name that
Joyce.
was used.
Is his real name. Nicknamed Lord Haw Haw, H-A-W-H-A-W. He was an American-born fascist and Nazi propaganda broadcaster during the Second World War. How did he die?
Yeah, the fact that he was also a voluntary propagandist fits with the way this comic plays out as well.
Yeah, it's exactly how it turns out. Because the Commandos are actually sent in to save him because he's connected to like a British family with royalty type vibes to them. Like they're very high class family.
I think they were just minor nobility.
Yeah, minor nobility. They're just high class family. That he's the son of the. We meet the father and mother, I think, here at one point, and we meet his
brother of the nurse.
He's the brother of the nurse that we already met. That we will get to officially meet here too. So they think their belief is that he's been forced to do this, but we actually find out he is voluntarily doing this, which plays into everything later. It's actually written decently well.
Again, I hate to interrupt, but just a little historical note. I think Bill will find this really interesting. Okay, he was captured by the Americans and then handed over to the British at the end of the war. He was then tried for treason, found guilty, and was hung on January 3rd, 1946 at Wandsworth Prison. And the hangman was none other than Albert Pierpoint. And for anyone out there listening, if you don't know who Albert Pierpoint is, there's a film called Pierpoint that you really, really, really should watch. Albert Pierpoint was the British hangman who executed most of the German, convicted German war criminals, including a number of the women who were prison guards at the female concentration camps. And, of course, Lord Haw Haw himself, along with a number of other high-profile German war criminals. But Pierpoint himself is one incredibly interesting and unique historical figure. But anyway, so Lord Haw Haw was executed right after about a year after the war ended.
Well, don't worry. In this book, he'll die sooner.
Yes.
We go back to camp. We see Fury finishing up reading a letter. He's been invited to tea by an English lord. So we see Fury gets all spiffied up. He even shaves, for God's sakes, getting ready to meet.
Well, he's ordered to go by Happy.
Yes, he's ordered to go by Happy.
Because he doesn't want to go.
He does not at first, but he is told to. So he good soldiers up, and he shaves, and he gets all spiffied up, and he goes. And this is where we meet the lordship. Here we meet the
Lord. Just before we jump to that, there's a great scene while he's getting ready, and all the Howlers are mocking him for having to get ready, where he is shooting at Duggan and Dino, who are fleeing from him because they took their mocking too far, and he's chasing them around the camp, not wearing any pants.
Yep, that does happen. So, oh, I didn't mention at the start of this episode, I'm in the process of getting over COVID as well. We recorded early last week, and I ended up getting COVID, so that was fun. So that little cough came out there, so I figured I'd throw that out there. So they meet he meets the lordship, who is Peter Hawley, and presenting his wife, the mother, Evelyn. And then we meet Pamela Hawley. We officially meet her, and she's the nurse that we met earlier. She's like the American sergeant. So yeah, Pamela Hawley. I can't say that name that well because of my speech impediment, so stick with me. So I want to say Harley, but it's Hawley because it's a W. So Pamela talks about how kind he was earlier and helped save that guy during the air raid and all this stuff, and Fury sits down for tea, and then this is where he is asked by Peter Hawley, the lordship, to find his son, who is Lord Haha, the propaganda, the man doing the propaganda for the Nazis. They believe, his family here believe, he is doing it against his will. We find out differently here later on. So Fury goes back, gets his men in shape, and they go to supposedly save Lord Haha. They make it to the lands of Berlin, and snowy. It's not snow. It's just the color tone. So
it's just supposed to be night.
Yeah, it's supposed to be night. That's why.
And I have to point out here, because they all disguised themselves as their impression of ordinary German citizens, I don't think Fury knows much about Germany, because he went full Chicago gangster from the 1930s.
Yeah. Yeah. So they make ground on Berlin, and they see a circus performer out there who is their contact, who is looking for somebody named Putsy. Putsy is a fucking lion and pounces out from behind Duggan. In what's actually a really fun page, but it's like, what the fuck?
It's a really fun page. That's a really terrible plan, because she let fucking Putsy go and start running around the German countryside so she'd have an excuse to be out in the woods at night to meet the Howlers.
Pretty contrived. So, some soldiers come up and she's like, "Put away your guns. Putsy will not harm you." What's the matter? So she finally gets to talking with the Commandos, and she's like, "It's about time. They almost shot poor Putsy." So they put their plan together here, and we see the holy crap Duggan's costume on the next page. They may. Oh Jesus, that caught me off guard. They use the circus train to make their way towards Berlin, and they're all in these circus costumes, which is why I was caught off guard here by Duggan's garb.
Duggan's the ringmaster, for anyone just listening.
He is the ringmaster. That's why I was caught off guard. It's quite the extravagant look for such an exquisite man. We have Fury and Dino are dressed up as trapeze artists to play the gimmick of circus men, and we see them. They get their plan underway, and they start sneaking into the German base where Lord Haha is being held, and this is where we get to see Lord Haha here, doing his shtick of some propaganda to the German soldiers. He's kind of just laid it on off air, and Fury breaks in and the action begins, and Lord Haha starts running away as soon as he sees the Commandos. He ducks in the cover a bit. The Commandos quickly get Lord Haha and take him with them. They fight back the Germans. Gabe throws a grenade there. Pretty cool, nicely drawn panel. At least the grenade's nicely drawn. And then
it's nice to see they finally remembered Gabe was on the team on friggin' page 17.
Yeah, they haven't been drawing Gabe much this issue, so well, yeah, I mean, they have fucking Haha in their grasp still, and he's like, "Where are you taking me?" He stutters saying that, but I'm not in the mood right now. I stutter enough without acting it out. So they shove him into their jalopy, which is a fantastic panel. And they get chased down by the Germans in their own jalopies. So, god damn, there's more jalopy action than an Archie comic.
Beach Boys
Lord
video.
Haha is terrified he's gonna get shot by his own men. As we As we learn, he actually is a Nazi and wants to be with them, and he even goes so far as to offer to make Sergeant Fury rich if they set him free. He reveals here that he does not consider himself a traitor, and every man fights for what he believes in, and he believes in the glorious destiny of the Father's Third Reich. So yeah, he is a Nazi. I'm
actually impressed they went that route with the character, because we've already spoiled it, but since he's going to die in the next couple of pages, they already changed his destiny from that of the real guy. So, I'm impressed they have the balls to make him an actual unrepentant Nazi instead of doing what they usually do in these World War II comics and have him as a tragic Brit that was either brainwashed against his will or tortured into helping the Nazis, and then he'll die heroically and redeem himself in the end.
I'll come back to that too, because there's a bit more
right
to add
now
on to that. But,
they're having fun,
what were you
fun,
gonna say,
fun.
Dan?
Well, Fury takes a propagandist away in his jalopy.
It is. Yes. It is. It's I don't even know what I was saying, honestly. Dan's that completely fucking threw my head for a loop. It was with how, of course it was. It is surprising. That's what I was gonna say. It is surprising that they don't just go with the tragic. It's built up that it could go that direction. They just go full Nazi with it, and it's actually good for that. It's almost feels like a swerve when you're reading it, but it's makes for a good story here.
It makes it a way better story than the tired cop-out they've done 50 times already in various war comics by this point.
Exactly. It's not as much of a predictable read, and it's a twist in a way that it makes sense though, and it does play off the real life guy too, even though they subvert here, but it's whatever. So while the Commandos get distracted fighting some Nazis again, Lord Haha goes to flee, and in his efforts of fleeing, he's shooting his gun up in the air too randomly. He trying to gather the attention of his brethren, so to say. He ends up getting himself shot by his own men, and this is where
they just see some guy running at them, waving around a gun, shooting it up in the air, so they kill him because they figure he's gone mad.
Mad, I tell you, mad.
So the Commandos stand for a great battle, and well, we were promised a Commando was going to fall in this issue, and a Commando sure does fall. As Juniper is the Juniper is the Commando that has fallen. He gets shot, and he does indeed die. It's not shown in any gory detail, but he's fucking dead.
Yeah, he was running after Lord Haha, trying to catch him.
Yeah, he was trying to get him back to their base. So he gets shot in the process of it. He kind of stands and fights for a bit and then gets shot trying to fight off the Nazis. We see Junior is stretchered. But it is revealed that he has indeed died through some basic dialogue. And then going back to what Bill was saying with everything with the story and how it's interesting they didn't just go with the easy method and made it a tragic story. Theory decides that that's not how the story went and what we saw, but that's the story he's going to let his family have. So his family will just know that he has died and it will be a tragedy to them, and they won't have to know that he was indeed a traitor. As Fury ends the issue here, letting Pamela know that he has died, and she makes it seem like he makes it seem like tragedy. He's like, you'd have been proud of him, Pam. He went out like a hero, blah blah blah. And that's how the issue ends. Lies.
Well, all good relationships are built on lies.
Exactly. Isn't that right,
Yeah,
Spies?
I'm secretly a Spider-Man fan. Not.
So, what do we think about that one?
It was okay.
It was fine.
It wasn't horrible.
Yeah. This is the issue that I was talking about. I was surprised I didn't rate it higher. Or rate it differently. I kind of thought I rated it 4, but I actually just gave it a 3. It was a very high 3, but
I just gave it a 3. There was nothing in this issue I didn't like, but there was nothing really special about this issue. They didn't do enough with Junior's death to really make it mean something.
It's not a run-defying issue or anything. It's a really good issue, solid issue. It's great, and it's very cool that there's an actual plot point like that where somebody legitimately dies. But the grand scheme of things, he's just killed off because there's 2 blondes on the team.
Yeah, people were having trouble telling Junior and Red
They couldn't
apart.
tell the difference. Even Stan couldn't tell the difference. I'm sure Kirby was getting annoyed if he read the issues back. So it's not like Junior was that important of a character. He in some of the first few issues, he was kind of one of the guys getting a few more lines here and there than some of the other characters. Like, fuck, if you were gonna pick a single guy that wasn't contributing much to the team, it probably might have been Izzy, maybe, but
yeah, but Izzy's a Jew, right? They're not gonna kill him.
Well, yeah, no, exactly, but like, hopefully he gets used more.
Yeah, he's probably got the most potential of any of the Howlers to do interesting stuff. Him or Dino, because Dino comes from Europe.
And Dino actually gets used, like, in the next issue or something, quite a bit more. It's in the next issue or issue 6 he gets used a bit more, which you wouldn't know because you haven't read them yet, but yeah.
But at this point, the only non-Fury Howler that has a personality is Duggan.
Yeah. They also, since they knew he was dying this issue, they kind of did give Junior a bit more time for the issue, which we didn't really spotlight, but which was it kind of made it obvious he was the one that was going to die in a way, but it made sense. So
I mean, I didn't get that foreshadowing, but that's because before I started reading this run, I knew Junior died in issue 4. So
fair enough. I kind of noticed it a little. Like, it's not like he gets like. It's not like he's acted like the main character or anything, but for the secondary characters, he gets some decent time at moments in this comic. But yeah, I mean, he was one of the blondes had to go, and I guess they wanted to keep the Selvin guy, so the more diversification.
He had a more defining character trait. Junior's only character trait was he was the rookie on the team where no one was a rookie.
I think the first hint was the fact that his nickname was Cannon Fodder. That probably should have warned him.
Yeah, they really should have thought that through better.
Well, I think we're good on that issue then. Let's
just pretend that didn't happen.
On. It was a good issue. It was pretty good. It wasn't great or anything, but it was really good. Strange Tales number 115. We have 2 stories for this issue. We're going to start off with, of course, the A story. We say that now, but the order will get funky later on. So, the Sandman strikes. Stan Lee and Dick Ayers. Dick Ayers taking art duties here, but Jack Kirby's doing the cover. Artie Simic. Well, a cover artist not doing the interior arts, not the same art in the book. What is this? Letters by Artie Simic. September 1963 release. This is a 13-page story. And given this one... Well, I'm not giving it to you because it has Spider-Man in it, so... You get the awesome Doctor Strange story this week.
So anyway, this story opens with Johnny being an arrogant flaming twat flaring around the city, showing
every other fucking issue.
Oh yeah, nothing unique here. And he flies into the Fantastic Four headquarters because Reed wanted him for something. And he's all gloating that he got there first, and till Reed shuts him down by pointing out that Sue and Ben aren't coming because they're doing something important relating to the Molecule Man case. So he's delegating the bullshit busy work to Johnny, and
little bitch,
because he has an experiment that he doesn't want to stop. So he found out that the Sandman broke out of prison because they were idiots and thought keeping a guy made out of sand in a normal prison cell with just bars on the window was a good way to contain him. And so Reed wants Johnny to just go tell Spider-Man that Sandman's on the loose so Spider-Man can deal with him. Leave it for someone competent. And you think I'm being like sarcastic and making fun of Johnny here, but no, that's basically Reed's actual logic is, Johnny, you're useless with this. Go get Spider-Man. He's the expert on dealing with Sandman.
Yeah.
How meta.
I mean, it's not like for centuries people have used buckets of sand to douse fires. It's not like that's a thing.
Yeah. Anyway, Johnny gets his panties in a twist about not being trusted to go fight Sandman himself.
Why do I need Spider-Man for?
Whiny little bitch.
And so he starts flying around the city sulking. And, oh look, there's Sandman on a bridge. So he flies down and tries to fight with Sandman. But Sandman just jumps off the side of the bridge.
Sandman shows a little grit and, takes off.
Yep. And so Johnny flies around a bit looking for his corpse, but doesn't find it. So he flies off home. And Sandman just lets go of the bottom of the bridge where he was clinging and climbs back up on the bridge and keeps going about his day. And so Johnny decides that, if Sandman only wants to fight Spider-Man, Sandman can fucking fight Spider-Man.
See, Sandman knows who the top of the card is.
Yeah. So we cut to the next panel where we see Spider-Man with a bullhorn challenging Sandman to a fight. And Sandman's like, I wanted to beat up Spider-Man. So he goes, finds Spider-Man at the appointed point on top of the building, and punches him off the fucking building.
You go.
And Spider-Man free falls for a bit and clearly hits re-entry speed because he catches on fire. Oh, wait, no, it was just Johnny wearing a dime store Spider-Man costume. And so he starts trying to fight with Sandman, but Sandman escapes into an elevator shaft into the building, and Johnny chases him down. They fight in the building for a bit, but the Sandman was clever when he went into the building and realized that fire in buildings sets off the automated sprinkler system. So Johnny gets himself fairly doused and is almost extinguished, but the downside is water isn't great for sand either, and starts making Sandman solidify. So Johnny grabs him and sticks him fully under the sprinklers so that he's fully solid and can't change shape anymore. And then Johnny starts fighting with him and picks him up and throws it because somehow he still has enough excess heat in his body to more than double his normal strength. And so he beats up Sandman for a bit, knocks him out, and hands him back to the police to take back to jail. And Spider-Man shows up and is just like, well, I'm glad he didn't get his ass kicked by Sandman, but I wish he'd leave my villains to me. And that's where the story ends, with more people shitting on Johnny in his own book.
It's the glorious shitting on Johnny.
The only saving grace for Johnny is the fact that he dislikes Spider-Man as much as I do. So I'm going to give this a 2. 1 pure star just because Johnny's right. That shiny star is yours, Johnny. That single star that brings you above a 1 is from me, Johnny, your friend. Call me. Call me, dude. We'll talk.
This show is taking a turn. Johnny Storm just got a star for himself. What the fuck? This actually was a good fucking story for a Johnny Storm story. I gave this a 3.
Yeah, I gave this a 3 too. It was definitely one of the better Johnny Storm stories. I'm disappointed by how depowered Sandman was compared to when Spider-Man fought him, but you can only do so much in 13 pages.
Yeah, as Marvel has shown us a million
Like
times.
if they're not going to do a 2-part story, Sandy pretty much had to be depowered this much, or they couldn't end the story in time. And they got the pacing. I will say they got the pacing right for a 13-page story.
Uh-huh.
And that's as much nice as you're ever going to get from me on a Torch issue.
Fair enough. Sandman, like Vulture, doesn't appear again until Sinister 6 forms, so we'll see you later.
Yeah, Sandy. Nice knowing you, buddy.
Well, I mean, he don't worry, he ain't going anywhere for long, but
he's leaving Spider-Man's book pretty soon. I think the Sinister 6 is his last appearance in Spider-Man for like 6 years.
Fair enough, that does happen, yeah. Which is interesting, considering he's a Spider-Man villain. But yeah, be interesting to see that play out. Pretty good story for Johnny Storm, so yeah, I think that's all I have to say on it. Anybody else?
No, it's just better than Spider-Man, that's all I have to say. But I mean, that stands obvious to everyone anyway, so.
Yeah, but you're in Spider-Man this week. Anyway,
so we could either have Chris Evans as Johnny Torch or Toby, whatever, as Spider-Man. Wow. Girls just flock into that Spider-Man movie, boys.
You say that, but people would take Toby Spider-Man over Chris Evans. Torch.
I would take Toby Spider-Man over Chris Evans' Torch.
The origin of Doctor Strange is what
I
happens
might take
in the
Nicolas Cage's Johnny Blaze over fucking Chris Evans as Johnny Torch.
Oh, I'm just gonna keep going. Strange Tales number 115B story, The Origin of Doctor Strange. Steve Ditko's on art here, and that's the big difference. I guess some reasons on letters should call that out. And this is an 8-page story, and Dan gets the main event this week.
I hate to break everybody's heart, but it's a pretty short synopsis, so you guys are gonna have to fill in the blanks.
We can chime in if we need to.
Synopsis for The Origins of Doctor Strange. Dr. Stephen Strange is a famous surgeon who works only for money, not caring for his patients nor interested in medical research. An auto accident damages the nerves in his hands severely, and he can never perform an operation again. The proud Strange refuses to work for others and ends up on the street. He learns about the healing powers of the Ancient One and travels to his sanctuary in India. Okay, have I missed anything? Wow.
Not really. We're only on page 4 here.
The Ancient One refuses to heal Strange because of his selfish motives. But suddenly, snow forces Strange to remain in the sanctuary until it thaws. Here, he witnesses the Ancient One's pupil, Baron Mordo, launch magical attacks upon his master. Mordo casts a spell upon Strange to stop him from warning the Ancient One of the attack's origins. Strange, therefore, resolves to learn the secrets of black magic to defeat Mordo himself. The Ancient One accepts Strange as his disciple and dispels Mordo's spell, which he had known about all along. That's literally all I've got. Oh.
That's all you needed.
That's fine. Okay, it's only 8 pages, so...
It's an 8-page story, and they paced it properly in that they didn't try to do a ton of stuff in that space. They just gave us a fairly succinct...
A simple, but very effective story.
Yeah, I mean, it's so effective they reused it for the Doctor Strange movie.
It's...
Pretty much. It's
not a horrible origin.
Which is more fleshed out.
Let's try this in English. As far as superheroes go, this is actually one of the more creative origins.
Such a really good origin for a superhero, especially when you take that he was such a cocky, arrogant bastard, and to turn him into a hero. It's a really good arc.
Yeah.
How it happens, and this origin before it's expanded in movies gets expanded more in the comics years and decades later too. So
yeah, I'm
this
looking
is the
forward
basis.
to the inevitable miniseries they do of his origin.
Yeah, this gives us the basis for Finn's, and it's even better when it gets expanded on. I will say, at the start here, we get a kind of a little bit of an important note for the Doctor Strange part of this title, where there's an editor's note at the start, and it's they're like, oh, it can only happen in Marvel. This is like Stanley. This is Stanley being passive aggressive, like he's a member of the elite. He they talk about how popular Doctor Strange has suddenly become, so that's why he's returned as of last issue of Finn, and now he's gonna be a constant feature, a constant ongoing feature as of now in the pages of Strange Tales. So he will going forward be the secondary story.
Yeah. Oh, and he brings it up again at the end too. He's like, "Can you believe we went 4 issues before we told you the origin?"
Yeah, can you believe
it's almost like we didn't think this comic would run.
Yeah, Stan and Steve rushed to dropped Riffin and Rush to make this extra long 8-pager as an introduction for this guy, for his origin. So yeah, it's a bit of a passive aggressive note. Stan didn't want to, as Bill has discussed, Stan did not want to do this Doctor Strange guy's title. Steve did go out to fight for it. Thank you, Steve. Yeah,
there are a few notes here as well. Strange's origins have been expanded upon and retold numerous times. In Doctor Strange 169,
yes.
Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme 56, Uncanny Origins 12, blah, 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 blah. And there are multiple accounts that have been given as to what caused the car accident that ruined Strange's hands. In Strange Tales 169, it states it was a slippery road. In Sorcerer Supreme 45, it states it was excessive speeds. Uncanny Origins suggests a combination of alcohol and fatigue. Well, Sorcerer Supreme 85 states he was racing away from the demons that haunted his mind. Now,
let's
the interesting note, or at least I find interesting, Strange's destiny to become the new Sorcerer Supreme was already preordained by the Ancient One, as explained in Sorcerer Supreme 85, which also revealed that Mordo has been terrorizing Stephen Strange since he was a child. And so...
So maybe the demons in his own mind actually are the most accurate impersonation because they're illusions from Mordo.
Well, when you look at it like that,
the point I want to make is that adds a lot of layers to this character, something that the other superheroes at this point really didn't have. Right? This just brings in an entire massive subplot that can be worked with, as you move forward.
Doctor Strange's origins are very fun to explore, and the basis is always the same. It's a car accident that has taken this talented doctor's fucking his skills away because he can't use his hands anymore. It's in a lot of ways it's simple, but it's very effective.
But that's the origins that last, the simple ones.
Exactly. That's why Batman's parents getting shot is seen every fucking 2 minutes.
Batman's parents, Superman crashing in the farm in Kansas, Spider-Man getting bit by the radioactive spider. Like, these are the ones that everyone thinks of.
Yes.
And I'm not just throwing in Spider-Man.
Oh, no, I know.
Dan.
No, it's just it's one of the most well-known origins. You kind of got to mention it when you're talking about those. This is easily a very, this is kind of like the next level or 2 down from those ones. The big boys, we all know. This is one of the next levels of a really good origin.
Yeah, I'd put this about the same as Iron Man building the
Mark
1 suit.
Yes. Doctor Strange and Iron Man are like you just said, they're on the same level, and they're both there. If they're not B tier, they're definitely C tier. Like they're really for origins.
Again, like Bill said, Iron Man's origins they're multi-layered, many-tiered. They give him an emotional connection to the reader because a lot of the young people reading these wanted to be superheroes. And, here's a superhero who had a justification for being a hero. And the same, with Doctor Strange, this gives him, a justification if he's being haunted all his life. It gives him a justification for buying into the mystique and the magic that he's experimenting with.
I think another strength of the Doctor Strange origin is that he was a bit of a fuck up beforehand. Like Stephen Strange was not a good person.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get
neither was Tony Stark.
And so, for people who read it who might not feel like they're actually worthy, to see this guy that is a screw up and is arrogant and is an asshole still be able to be a hero.
Yeah.
Stephen Strange is a very rewarding character arc because you see him when it's done right, and I think they did his origins really well in the movie. It's one of the better parts of the movie, arguably. When you see this guy turn from an asshole, snobby, righteous doctor and see him lose his abilities through this accent, and he can't do shit all with his hands, and then see him fight. He's still arrogant at first. He still thinks he deserves everything. You see his attitude completely get turned around, and he becomes this whole different guy, and he starts to get some humility to him, and he becomes an actual hero in the end. And it's very rewarding.
His powers are earned. It's like Iron Man. He earns the powers that he has. They're not just conferred to him by a god
it takes him
or something.
A long time.
Or bitten by a spider.
He works
he does work for it. Iron Man worked for the powers that he has. Right? He built the suit. He didn't just stumble across it in some ancient castle. So, look, magic armor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm exploring in a sewer and find this old guy that tells me to say Shazam before
literally.
he dies.
I hate to say it, but yeah. You're absolutely right. But again, it's
Sorry,
like
Sam.
Thor Thor's powers aren't earned; they already exist because he's a god. And here's Doctor Strange realizing that his life has to take a different direction if he wants to survive, if he wants to become any kind of human being. This is a path he can walk.
I am going to have to disagree with you on the Thor's powers aren't earned, because the whole point of Don Blake is that's Thor earning his powers back.
Thor had his powers.
Well, so I can kind of break this a little bit and agree and disagree.
Ooh.
At this point, at this point that we're reading, Thor's powers aren't, I don't think, as earned as they will become, because I think the gimmick of Thor, as time has gone along and more modernly, has been a lot of us seeing the flashbacks into how much that Thor had to earn being Thor.
Yeah, at this point they haven't said that
only because he threw it away. Sorry, guys. He was born a god. And he threw it. Odin took it away from him.
Yes, but the Don Blake thing just muddles everything for the whole Thor arc anyway, because it just makes things more confusing.
Doctor Strange wasn't born a magician. Iron Man wasn't born a superhero.
No, I see what you're saying, but I do think that you can't say Thor.
I didn't say he didn't have to earn it.
He has to earn.
He didn't have to earn it to begin with.
Thor is
fair enough.
Thor is born a god, but he isn't born
integrity.
with the ability to lift that hammer. He has to earn the right to lift that hammer. That's the long running thing with Thor. He's still a fucking god.
That's nitpicking.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get off on a huge tangent about this, ratings for this comic.
Oh, we didn't do
3.
ratings.
Do you know what? I'll go 4 because I do like I like the origin concept.
That's
wow.
high for you.
I agree with Dan
Holy
on
shit.
comic rating.
That's incredible.
I also gave this a 4.
To be fair, I agreed on it with Dan on a comic rating one time, and I think we'll be talking about that in a bit. I let my Markdom come out here and gave this a 5. I love Doctor Strange's origin. I just love Doctor Strange in general. I highly enjoyed this. Realistically, probably more a 4. I just gave it a 5.
I'm not going to argue with you about that.
I highly enjoyed it. I guess let's move on to our monthly segments and get this going. We've all had a long day, I'm sure, so let's get moving on this. So Bill, why don't you run? We're gonna go through and each choose our best and worst titles of the month now, and so we'll have Bill just run us through real fast the list of what titles we have actually read this month, and then we'll pick our best and worst. Probably start.
So we started with Amazing Spider-Man number 5, which was him fighting Dr. Doom. Strange Tales 112 was the eel almost blowing up Johnny. Strange Tales Annual number 2 was Spider-Man crossing over with Human Torch. Fantastic Four Annual number 1. We had the A story of Submariner trying to conquer the surface world and then getting rapey with Sue. And the B story of retelling Spider-Man trying to join the Fantastic Four. Sergeant Fury 3, Midnight on Massacre Mountain, just the Commandos doing commando things. Journey into Mystery 96, A story, which was Thor fighting the Mad Merlin. And then the C story, which was the 5-page Medusa story. Avengers number 1, the formation of the Avengers. Tales of Suspense 45, Jack Frost and Happy and Pepper show up. Tales to Astonish 47 is the one about Trago. Strange Tales 133, The Coming of Plant Man, is Johnny fighting Plant Man. Fantastic Four 19, Prisoners of the Pharaoh, where they go back in time and get conquered or captured by Ramatot. That was his name.
Yes.
Journey into Mystery 97. The A story was Thor fighting the Lava Man, and the B story was the start of Tales of Asgard. Tales of Suspense 46. We get Iron Man fighting the Crimson Dynamo. Tales to Astonish 48. We get
my
the Porcupine. Boy. Yeah. Strange Tales 114, the A story is the fake Captain America. And the B story is Doctor Strange returning and fighting Baron Mordo again. Fantastic Four 20 is the Molecule Man. X-Men 2 is the Vanisher. Spider-Man 6 is the Lizard. Journey into Mystery, Human Cobra, and Odin fighting Ymir. Tales of Suspense 47, Iron Man fighting the Melter. And then this week's comics, which we all know because we've already covered them today.
Ta-da. The beauty of that. So, do we want to start off with worst or best?
Oh, let's start off with worst and end on
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So who wants to start with their worst? What was their whose worst story of the month? I mean, I can start. I think Dan and I might have same one though.
I'll start.
Yes, you start, and then I'll back you up with the same
one. As much as I hate to admit it, the one I really, really hated the most was the Melter.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't expect
That's not where we were going.
I figured you were going to be Trago because you were so mad about that one.
I was mad about that one. The Melter just pissed me off in ways. It was so stupid. There was no continuity. Nothing about it made any freaking sense. It was completely pointless to watch.
Fair enough. I really can't argue with you on that one.
I could, but I'm not going to bother. It's not really. It's better when you read it, but it's not like the Meltzer's still dumb. Stupid, but it's. Oh. But I mean, it comes across.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of candidates.
So I think we're all going to have different picks this month.
So we're all having different picks then.
Because I don't have the one that I thought you and Dan were going to pick as my worst.
No, yeah, because I'm going with Trago.
I knew one of you was.
Tales to Astonish 47. I had 2 or 3 options to go with. In fact, the other one was that Plant Man issue right next to it.
That was my number 2.
Which is probably Bill's.
Nope.
Okay, then there was a few options I had in mind with you, but the Trago story was stupid. I think I had 3 1-star stories this month, and the one was the Medusa one, which barely counts. So it was Trago and Plant Man that were my other options. The Trago story just annoyed me and pissed me off as well. It was fantastic hearing Dan's rage when Dan got to experience it for the first time of reading the synopsis. That was beautiful.
Oh, that was so good. But,
and that's part of the reason I stuck with the story too, in case Dan hadn't. I felt like somebody had to shit on this again.
Fair enough. My worst was Journey into Mystery 96 with Mad Merlin.
Oh, that was the first one I thought you were going to pick, and then I was looking at this list as we were talking now. That was the one I thought you were going to pick earlier when I was looking at this list myself, and then I forgot about it. You hated the Merlin.
Was stupid enough that I was entertained, and Trago didn't bother me nearly as much as it bothered Dan.
You hate Merlin.
Yeah, I hated that Merlin.
I knew you were going to pick that one earlier, and I forgot about it while looking at this list. Oh, that's great. It was a very shitty story. Merlin deserves it for sure.
I don't feel sad about picking that one.
No,
we had some doozies to pick for worse. That was a bad week of comics.
That was a bad one, and I mean I enjoyed it more than you did, but that's a very good choice still.
Yeah.
So I guess for our best, Dan, you want to go first for your best again?
This is hard. I won't lie, because there were a couple I liked. I liked the Doctor Strange. Both of them were that I remember were both fun. They were good, but
yeah, Doctor Strange. Both of them.
I
were
have
good,
to go with. This is actually really hard because a big part of me wants to sit there and say the Namor story. Right, where he gets a little bit touchy-feely with
Fantastic Four annual.
Because there were elements to it that made it a good story. Like, it was a little more expansive, a little more worldly than they usually get.
It's a lot of world building in that issue, and it's very well done for the most part.
It was a bit of a breath of fresh air to have something a little more expansive going on than what the usual, cut and paste, find of, some weird, shtick for a villain and run with it sort of idea. But I guess I will go with the Namor and Fantastic Four.
All right.
I was going to say I was thinking, what's his other option? He's really going on about this Namor
there were other
story.
options, but again, I was... because I did like the X-Men. But, I think that just bringing Namor into things and bringing a whole new world... Anyway, I'll go with that.
Yeah, no. That's a really good pick. That's a good, solid pick. That was a really good story.
Yeah.
A bit too long, and
granted,
for my taste, it was really good.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't pick it. To me, it felt like two good stories stuck together.
Fair. Okay.
But good pick though. I can't believe your pick wasn't The Birth of Giant Man, but here we are.
Funny that.
So Bill and I might have the same pick, but I might surprise Bill here. I'm just gonna go ahead and steal the thunder and say my pick for best comic of the month. I had one 5-star comic this month, which was the Doctor Strange, and I'm actually not giving it that. Surprisingly enough, possibly. I'm actually giving it to the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 6, the debut of the Lizard.
I knew that was going to be your pick.
I had a feeling.
I pretty much told you guys at one point, the beginning of this month, it was.
Well, there were a lot of hints.
I love this story. Even though I didn't give it 5 stars, I love it. It's great. I love that it takes place in fucking Florida, the swamps of Florida. Love it. Fantastic.
Yeah. And this one was my pick as well.
There we go.
I did go full 5 stars on it. I had a couple of 5 stars to pick from this month.
You had more than I did this month.
Yeah.
My only 5 star was literally that Doctor Strange we just went through.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the Spider-Man. And when I'm picking my best and worst, I don't even look at my ratings.
I do just for fun, but I don't go by them because it doesn't necessarily, the ratings don't really go into this, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I do fudge it a bit. Like the story I disliked the most was that stupid little 5-page Medusa story in Journey into Mystery.
Yeah.
But it was only 5 pages, so I couldn't really say that the experience of reading it was worse than reading some of the other stuff.
Because the Cobra one was also on my really shit list.
That was on my list too. It wasn't on Bill's list. Bill likes that one.
So. I just didn't.
Me neither.
Exactly.
You didn't have to read it either.
But no, there were a lot of shit ones. But anyway.
Doing up the list to send to you guys so that we could pick these was really interesting because it really drove home that this, like the first half of this month, was mostly garbage.
Rough. Yeah, it was rough first half.
And then the second half of the month was mostly good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Dan would say that. It was a lot more Spider-Man in the second half. I guess let's move on to our poll list and get that out of the way quickly. It shouldn't take long, really.
No,
this is where I bow out because I don't do this part, but I will.
Yeah, you're just pulling Tales of Suspense. So.
But either way, this was a great chat, guys. I really appreciate this because I've had a shit day, right. So this was a nice way to end it. It was a really good.
No, feel free to bow out. We won't.
Yeah,
we're almost out of here anyway, so we'll miss you, Dan, while you're gone shortly, but we will see you soon because next week we'll have you
guys
back.
All have a good night. Goodbye, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to all of you soon. Bye.
Have a great one, Dan. So, we'll miss him, but we'll see him again next week, assuming everything is planned. So for our polls, we'll just go by person. I'll go first because mine's probably the quickest. So for my poll list right now is Fantastic Four, Tales of Suspense, Amazing Spider-Man, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and X-Men. So there's some titles left off there. Obviously, I'm still not going to pull Ant-Man / Giant Man Tales to Astonish. It's just not worth it to me. What else do we have here? I'm keeping everything that's already on the list. So the only question is if I'm adding or getting rid of. So I'm not adding Ant-Man / Giant Man. And the biggest surprise is I'm still not adding Journey into Mystery. Still not adding Thor yet. It's still not worth it to me. Still not good enough. That will probably change next month, spoiler alert. I suppose the other question that I didn't really keep in mind is Avengers. Would I pull Avengers? I want to say I probably wouldn't pull Avengers at this point, so I'm going to go with that.
What about Strange Tales now that Doctor Strange is a permanent fixture?
I left that for last on purpose because that is the addition I am making this month. Strange Tales is getting at it because Doctor Strange is just too good to not just pick up exclusively for Doctor Strange. So There we go. Only one addition for this month, and no takeaways.
Mine's basically the same. I'm making one addition. I'm adding Tales of Suspense because with Happy and Pepper, Iron Man has hit the level of decent.
Yeah. So Bill's list was already Journey into Mystery, Amazing Spider-Man, Bill had Strange Tales and I didn't. So Bill already has Strange Tales, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, Fantastic Four, and X-Men. So Bill has now added. Over the course
of this month, I would have dropped Strange Tales and then picked it back up based on when Doctor Strange was in it.
Yeah,
because like RJ, I'm only buying it for Doctor Strange.
Bill is exclusively reading for for Doctor Strange, so if there's ever a stretch not with Doctor Strange, we might, or if Doctor Strange takes a big dip for some reason, that this pull list could change.
Spoiler: I've read that entire run. It doesn't.
Perfect. I love to hear that.
I mean, it falls down to like a pretty average 3-star rating, but I'd probably be buying for 3 stars.
Yeah.
Avengers hasn't done enough, or X-Men at this point. Actually, I'm already getting X-Men. I picked it up last month because I'm an X-Men
we both
mark,
did.
And I know that, but
we both let that get to us.
Yeah, but Avengers hasn't done enough to draw me in.
It hasn't, and I didn't like. If issue 2 was better, I probably would have added it, but issue 2 wasn't good enough for me to add. I'm leaving Avengers off, like I already said. I'm glad you came around on Iron Man so fast because I've been enjoying Iron Man. I know you've been finding it shit more than me, so it's fair enough.
I knew I was going to add it when Happy and Pepper joined the cache, because that, in my mind, is the mark where the stories start being consistently good.
Yes, and it's done a world of wonder for the title having the side characters. It really has. So I'm glad we are both pulling Tales of Suspense now. We're both pulling Strange Tales now. We were divided on those titles, and now we both have them. So thank you, Dr. Strange.
The only thing we still disagree on is Journey.
It's Thor. Yeah, we both. That's the only one we disagree on. You're pulling Thor. I'm not.
And honestly, with the way this month has gone on the Thor stories,
you don't blame me as much.
If they didn't add Tales of Asgard, I probably would have dropped it.
The only good Ace story, which is wild to say, is the fucking Lava Man story.
Yeah, I agree on that. I would have probably gotten sick of it and dropped it, but Tales of Asgard would keep my interest for a bit.
Yeah, and the stories are gonna very quickly here, as of next month probably. They're gonna, for sure next month, because I know how the episodes are going. They are gonna quickly advance in quality, and you probably will see me at it next month, because it goes up in quality.
I think we might have passed our last really bad Thor story.
I think we did, actually. On that note, that's our poll list updated, so I might add that to the description or something for anybody who want to really keep track. We'll see. But before we go, let us plug what is going to be on next week's episode. So Dan's not going to know this until we tell him later, but that's okay.
That's fine. It's not like he's going to read the comics anyway.
That's very true. What a co-host that guy is. So for episode 20, next week is episode 20. We will be starting the week off with some hate monger action as Fantastic Four issue 21 starts us off. That's
going to be an interesting one.
It will.
I'll be interested to see both your takes on it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about this one. I'm intrigued to see what we have to say about it. Hate monger. Great twist on who the character actually is. So if you haven't read it, when we're talking about these comics, by the way, and we're plugging it, if you haven't read these and have access to read these before we cover them, I recommend you doing that.
Yeah, we're getting to the point that, you're not going to be suffering through garbage just to get to it. Like some of the early issues, it's like we can't really recommend you actually read these, but
I'm sure there'll still be ones we won't be recommending to people, but overall,
we got one coming up in 2 comics.
Exactly. If you but like in general, if you want to read something before we go into it, then I'd recommend it if you have access to it. But for the second comic of next week, we will be covering Tales of Suspense issue number 48, which sees Iron Man debut a new armor. Tales to Astonish, nothing else important happens that issue. Tales to Astonish issue number 50, the Human Top debuts. Probably, I have a feeling I have better thoughts on that. I have better feelings towards that one than Bill probably does. Tales to Astonish continues to haunt us next week as we have issue 51, the A story, and with the Human Top part 2, it's a 2-parter. Finally, another 2-parter since Fantastic Four's Doom story.
As bad as I think the Human Top story is, that's a pretty major point for the 13-page comics.
It is.
For them to switch to 2-parters. It lets them tell much better stories.
Yeah, which will be interesting to talk about next week, how that plays out too. And we have the B story of issue 51, which is the debut of Wasp's shitty 5-page stories. So I'm sure we're just looking forward to talking about those. We have
spoilers right now. They're not stories about the Wasp, which would be substantially better. They're the Wasp telling old 1950s sci-fi 5-page morality tales.
That's not one of the stories we're recommending you hunt down. I mean, if you have Marvel Unlimited and reading the issue already, sure, but it's not important. Strange Tales issue number 116 will end us off. Of course, we have two different stories since we have Torch and Strange in the title. The A story for Doctor Strange. The A story for Human Torch will see the Thing show up to team up with him as they take on, who really cares, the Things here, so the title should go up in quality a bit.
You'd think so, but they managed to screw it up again in like 2 issues.
Yeah, they do.
The Curse of Solo Torch, unfortunately, even gets Ben.
Yeah. And then, Ben doesn't actually stick around at this point yet, so that's probably...
Oh, this isn't when Ben actually joins
It's his little tease. It's his little tease of joining the title.
Yeah, when they were feeling out if their sales would go up because Ben joined.
Yeah. And then for the B story, we have another Doctor Strange story. I think we return to Nightmare's World in this. Yes, we do. That's the title of the story. I had to look. We return to Nightmare's World for what I think is the weakest Doctor Strange story so far, in my opinion. But we'll get to that next week.
The notable fact about it is this is the point where Strange is consistently 8 pages.
Yes, we got 8 pages this week with the origin, and it does stick that way, which is lovely. More pages for Strange is good.
And even though it's the weakest Doctor Strange story, that doesn't mean it's a bad story.
No, not necessarily. Although I think we're still gonna have some contrasting opinions next week, which should be fun.
You didn't like it?
I think not necessarily. I think it's really the weakest one to me. I think that we're actually gonna have a few contrasted opinions next week. So if you like that type of convo,
I think we will. It sounds like Ryan actually enjoyed Human Torch, or not Human Torch, Human Top.
So if you like that kind of conversation, stay tuned. I think next week's actually going to be a really fun episode. So come back. Episode 20, pretty fun. I'm glad we got this one out of the way, and we got our monthly segments. I'm enjoying the monthly segments. If you guys are too, let us know in the comments. If you're on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, even share if you'd like to. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. If you're on Spotify, let us know in the poll that's connected which was your favorite story we covered of the week. And we will see you all next week, hopefully. We'll see you all later, and peace out.
Have a good one, everyone.
Boom, 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 boom. There we go.